Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Pam Show. I'm glad you're here with me today. I am a parenting mentor focusing on behavior management, common sense for neurotypical children aged 2 to 12. And today we're going to dig a little deeper into a reel I shared. It was a story about my son when he was 10, what happened and how I handled it. I think this is interesting because I got a lot of different comments on my feedback on my socials, but here's what happened. Backstory here. My son was 10 and he was playing in the front yard with his friend, whose mother was a business partner of mine. And dad came to pick up the friend. It was time for him to go home. Now, for some reason, my son, I don't know what possessed him to do this. He never, ever did anything like this before, and he's never done anything like it since. But he walked up to the father and he kicked him really hard in the shins. At which point the father turned around and kicked my son right back in the shins. I know. Okay, no, wait, back up here. I was coming out the front door as I saw this all unfold, and I was shocked. I mean, shocked that my son would kick an adult like that. He knows better. I don't know. He temporarily, just lost it. And then the father kicked him back. Okay, that was the scenario. And I talked to my son. I go, "What'd you do that for?" And he said, "Oh no, oh no." And I looked at the father like, "What did you kick my son for?" He's like, "Well, he kicked me first." Okay, there's a few things to unpack here. And let me tell you how I handled it. Okay, first of all, my son had no business kicking anybody ever, let alone an adult. And again, I don't know what possessed him to do that. He didn't have a valid answer. I don't know if he was upset because he didn't want his friend to go home and he kicked the father. I don't know. It was bizarre. A little weird, no, more than a little weird, that the father kicked my son back. I think it was just a reaction. It was just an instinct. I don't think he thought about that. I think he just reacted very quickly. Now, what did I do about the whole thing? Well, I made my son apologize, obviously, for kicking the father. And then I did nothing else. He didn't get grounded. He didn't get in any more trouble for it. He didn't have a consequence for it from me because he already had his consequence for it. It was a natural consequence. He got kicked back. And guess what? That's a lesson he never forgot. I don't think he's ever kicked anybody like that again. He's 40 years old now because he got to experience firsthand the reaction to his action. And I just did my episode on Tuesday for the Pam Show where I talked about action reaction. He kicked the man, he got kicked back. There you go. That's what happens in real life sometimes. And I know that might sound a little harsh, but that's reality. And he learned the lesson at a young age. I didn't have to say anything more to him. He knew. We didn't have to have a long discussion. We didn't have to analyze it. I didn't have to, how did you feel about that? No. Here's what happened. You chose to kick somebody, and guess what? Sometimes people kick back. They don't like it. Or you hit somebody, they're going to hit you back, punch you back. That's how life works. I did nothing else to him. He had no other punishments. Now I had different people share what they would have done. Oh, he'd had a consequence. He'd have been grounded. He would have had to do whatever. For me, he learned his lesson. I didn't. You know what? What I would have said to him couldn't have been as powerful as that lesson was to him. And he never did it again. So sometimes as a parent, you just have to let those natural consequences happen and take place. Let's dig into that a little bit. Here you go. You tell your child, "Hey, we're going out, grab a jacket. It might be chilly. You might need it." "No, I don't need a jacket." "You sure you might? You probably need to bring a jacket." "No, I don't want a jacket. I'll be fine." And then they don't bring a jacket and it's cold and now they're cold. That's a natural consequence. They're cold because they had a choice. That's their action. Their reaction was not to take the jacket and they now are cold. That's a natural consequence. Your child goes to school. They're responsible for packing their own lunch in the morning and taking it with them. They don't do that for whatever reason, or they do it and they forget it. Now they get to school, they have no lunch. Well, that's the action. Here's the reaction or the consequence. Well, maybe you can buy your lunch at school, Maybe someone will share lunch with you. Maybe the lunch will give you a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and an apple, and I'll pay for it later. Or guess what? You don't have a lunch today. Yeah, you don't have a lunch today. Now, I did a reel about this about a year ago, and the reactions to this, some of them were just laughable. My child will starve. They'll starve if they don't eat lunch. No, they're not going to starve. I can promise you that. They will survive. If they had breakfast and they're going to miss lunch, they're not going to die. They'll eat when they come home. They'll get a snack. There you go. Or they won't be able to learn. Yeah, they will. Yep, they'll be fine. I promise you, they will survive and they will be fine. I would never. That's abusive. No, it's not abusive. No. They forgot their lunch. They have the options of eating something at school or not. That's consequences of behavior. And I can't tell you the number of parents that said I would take my lunch to them every single time because I'm not going to let my poor, sweet little baby go without lunch. Okay, that was a little sarcasm there. Really? Really? So you're bailing your child out every single time instead of teaching them consequences to behavior. Okay. And then these are the ones that I just had a laugh at. I'm sorry. I would call DoorDash. I would call Uber Eats. I would make sure my sweet child had food. Okay. Okay. This is where I need to bite my lip. But do you honestly think that school, the staff in the front office, have time to be accepting meals and getting them to your child because they forgot their lunch? No. Do you know how annoying you are as a parent when you are constantly bringing things to school for your child and you're disrupting the staff in the office? Because you're not the only one doing that, right? Because a lot of you have precious babies that are just never going to make it through the school day unless everything is perfect for them. More sarcasm, but you're annoying the staff in the office. And you're teaching your child they don't need to take responsibility for themselves because mommy's going to bail them out every single time. And unless you're planning on following that child to college or trade school or out in the big wide world when they go to work and do the same thing for them, you're not teaching them how to be responsible for themselves and face the consequences. And that's something you need to start young because you're the parent. That's part of your job. Okay, rant over. I'll see y'all next week. And in the meantime, hug and love your babies. Bye, y'all.